The crash landing. The sleek silver craft shuddered violently as it plummeted through the planet's atmosphere. Inside the cockpit, warning lights flashed an angry red and alarms blared. Ambassador Zara of the Calaxian Empire gripped the controls with her four-fingered hands, fighting to keep the ship steady as it hurtled towards a surface. "Computer, status report," she barked, her crystalline eyes scanning the readings on the flickering holographic displays. "Hull integrity at 47%, engine failure imminent, impact with surface in approximately 90 seconds, the AI responded in its maddeningly calm voice. Zara cursed under her breath. This was supposed to be a simple diplomatic mission to open negotiations with a primitive species on this backwater world. How had it gone so terribly wrong? She pushed the thought from her mind, focusing on the task at hand. Survival now, questions later. "Computer, locate least hazardous landing zone within range," she commanded. A topographical map appeared before her, a blinking indicator highlighting a relatively flat area amidst the rugged terrain. It would have to do. Zara angled the craft towards the landing zone, using what little power remained in the failing engines to slow their descent. The ground rushed up to meet them with terrifying speed. "Brace for impact in 3, 2, 1. The world exploded into chaos as the ship slammed into the earth. Metal screamed and tore, and Zara was thrown violently against her restraints. Her head struck the console, and darkness claimed her. John Williams wiped the sweat from his brow, squinting against the harsh sun of this alien world. He'd been exploring the outskirts of the research base for weeks now, mapping the surrounding terrain and collecting geological samples. It was grueling work, but he loved every minute of it. This was what he had dreamed of since childhood, being one of the first humans to set foot on a planet beyond their solar system. A distant rumble caught his attention, and he looked up to see a streak of fire tear across the sky. His eyes widened as he realized it was a ship, and it was coming down fast. Without hesitation, he jumped into his rover and sped off in the direction of the crash site. Protocol dictated he should report back to base first, but every second could mean the difference between life and death for whoever was in that ship. As he crested a hill, he saw the impact site, a deep furrow carved into the earth, ending in a smoking wreck of twisted metal. John brought the rover to a halt and grabbed his emergency kit, approaching the crash with caution. It definitely wasn't of human design, which meant. His heart raced as he realized the implications. First contact. This could change everything. Pushing aside his excitement, John focused on the task at hand. He had to check for survivors. As he drew closer, he saw movement within the shattered cockpit. Someone, or something, was alive in there. With a grunt of effort, John pried open the damaged hatch. His breath caught in his throat as he saw the ship's sole occupant. She was clearly not human, with pale blue skin and delicate features that seemed almost crystalline. Four-fingered hands gripped the controls, and a shock of shimmering, color-shifting hair framed her face. Despite her alien appearance, there was no mistaking the pain and fear in her expression. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the universe seemed to stand still. Then the alien's eyes rolled back, and she slumped forward, unconscious. John snapped into action. Alien or not, she needed help. He carefully extracted her from the wreckage, marveling at how light she felt in his arms. Her skin was cool to the touch, and he could feel a rapid pulse beneath his fingers. At least some things were universal. As he carried her back to his rover, John's mind raced. The research base wasn't equipped to handle alien physiology. Bringing her there could be disastrous, both for her health and for potential diplomatic ramifications. No, he would have to treat her himself, at least until she regained consciousness and could communicate her needs. He gently laid her in the back of the rover, securing her as best he could, then climbed into the driver's seat. As he started the engine, John glanced back at his unconscious passenger. What had he just gotten himself into? The rover bounced across the rugged terrain as John made his way to a sheltered canyon he had discovered during his explorations. It would provide cover from the harsh sun and any prying eyes from the research base. He kept glancing back at the alien woman, checking for any signs of distress, but she remained still. Upon reaching the canyon, John quickly set up a makeshift camp, erecting a small shelter and laying out his medical supplies. He carefully moved the alien from the rover to a sleeping pad, then began to assess her injuries. There was a nasty gash on her forehead, oozing a strange, silvery fluid that he assumed was blood. Her left arm was bent at an unnatural angle, likely broken. Beyond that, he couldn't be sure without more advanced medical equipment. John cleaned and dressed the head wound as best he could, then fashioned a splint for her arm. Throughout his ministrations, the alien remained unconscious, her chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. He couldn't help but marvel at her otherworldly beauty, so similar yet so different from humans. As the alien sun began to set, casting long shadows across the canyon, John sat back and considered his options. He should report into the base, let them know what had happened. But something held him back. The politics of first contact were delicate, and he didn't trust the bureaucrats back on Earth to handle this situation with the care it deserved. No, better to wait until his patient woke up, to learn more about her and her intentions before involving others. A soft groan snapped John out of his reverie. The alien woman was stirring, her eyelids fluttering. He leaned forward, heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Slowly, those crystalline eyes opened, focusing on John with a look of confusion and fear. She tried to sit up, but John gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Easy there," he said softly, knowing she probably couldn't understand him, but hoping his tone would convey his meaning. "You've been in an accident. You're safe now." The alien woman stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then, to John's utter astonishment, she spoke. Where am I?" Her voice was melodic, with an odd resonance that sent shivers down John's spine. More importantly, she was speaking perfect English. "You're on LV 426, John replied, using the official designation for the planet. "I found you after your ship crashed. Do you remember what happened?" The alien's brow furrowed as she processed this information. "I am Ambassador Zara of the Calaxian Empire," she said slowly. "I was on a diplomatic mission to open negotiations with your species, but something went wrong during our approach. The last thing I remember is losing control of the ship." John's mind reeled at this revelation. A diplomatic mission. The governments back on Earth had no idea that alien civilizations were aware of humanity's fledgling interstellar presence, let alone planning to initiate contact. "I'm John Williams, a geological surveyor with the LV 426 research team," he introduced himself. "It's an honor to meet you, Ambassador Zara, though I wish it were under better circumstances." Zara attempted to sit up again, this time succeeding with John's help. She winced, looking down at her splintered arm. "You treated my injuries," she observed. "Thank you. I apologize for any inconvenience I've caused." John chuckled despite himself. "Inconvenience? Ambassador, you've just made first contact with humanity. I'd say that's worth a little inconvenience." A small smile tugged at Zara's lips, and John felt an unexpected warmth in his chest. "Indeed," she said, "though this isn't quite how I imagined our first meeting would go." As they talked, John learned more about Zara and her people. The Calaxians were an ancient and advanced civilization, with a vast interstellar empire spanning multiple galaxies. They had been observing humanity's development for centuries, waiting for the right moment to make contact. Zara had been chosen to lead the diplomatic mission due to her expertise in dealing with emerging spacefaring races. In turn, John told Zara about the LV 426 research base and humanity's first tentative steps into interstellar exploration. He explained why he had chosen not to take her back to the base or report her presence immediately, and she agreed that a more cautious approach was wise. As night fell, John prepared a meal from his rations, grateful that Zara's biology seemed compatible with human food. They sat together beneath the alien stars, the gravity of their situation temporarily forgotten as they shared stories of their respective worlds. "Your planet sounds beautiful," John said wistfully as Zara described the crystal cities of her homeworld. "I hope I'll get to see it someday." Zara's expression grew serious. "John, there's something you should know. The reason for my mission, it's not as simple as I've made out to be." Before she could continue, a distant rumble caught their attention. John grabbed his binoculars and scanned the horizon, his heart sinking as he saw a plume of dust approaching. "Looks like a search party from the base," he said grimly. "They must have detected your ship's crash." Zara struggled to her feet, panic evident in her eyes. "John, you don't understand. We can't let them find me. The fate of both our species may depend on it." As the dust cloud grew closer, John made a split-second decision. He quickly packed up their camp, helping Zara into the rover. Whatever secrets the ambassador held, whatever dangers they faced, he knew one thing for certain: their journey together was only just beginning. With a roar of the engine, John steered the rover deeper into the canyon, away from the approaching search party. As they raced into the unknown, he couldn't shake the feeling that the course of human history had just been irrevocably altered, and he was along for the ride. Secrets of the Starlit Canyon. As the rover rumbled deeper into the winding canyon, the twin moons of LV-426 cast an ethereal glow over the alien landscape. John's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, his mind racing with the implications of their situation. Beside him, Ambassador Zara sat in tense silence, her crystalline eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of pursuit. "I think we've lost them," John said finally, easing off the accelerator. "For now at least, but you owe me an explanation, Ambassador. What's really going on here?" Zara sighed, her color-shifting hair rippling with shades of deep blue, a sign of distress John was beginning to realize. "It's complicated, John, and dangerous. The less you know, the safer you'll be." "With all due respect," John replied, a hint of steel in his voice, "I think I'm way past the point of playing it safe. I've abandoned my post, possibly committed treason, and I'm harboring an alien fugitive. I'd say I'm pretty invested in whatever's going on." The ambassador was quiet for a long moment, considering his words. Finally, she nodded. "You're right. You deserve to know the truth. But first, we need to find a secure location. There's equipment in my ship that we'll need, if it survived the crash." John raised an eyebrow. "Back to the crash site? Isn't that the first place they'll look for us?" "Precisely," Zara said with a grim smile. "Which is why it's the last place they'll expect us to go." Shaking his head in disbelief, John turned the rover around. "I hope you know what you're doing, Ambassador." As they approached the crash site, John killed the engine and lights, letting the rover coast to a stop behind a rocky outcropping. They crept forward on foot, using the moon's light to navigate the treacherous terrain. The wreckage of Zara's ship loomed before them, a twisted metal carcass illuminated by the stars. "There," Zara whispered, pointing to a section of the hull that appeared mostly intact. "The containment unit should be in there." John nodded, pulling out a small plasma cutter from his toolkit. "Stand back," he warned, then set to work on the damaged hull. Sparks flew as he carefully cut away the metal, revealing a hidden compartment within. Zara reached inside, her fingers dancing over a complex locking mechanism. With a soft hiss, the compartment opened, revealing a sleek cylindrical device about the size of a thermos. The ambassador cradled it reverently, a look of relief washing over her features. "What is that thing?" John asked, eyeing the device warily. "This," Zara replied, her voice barely above a whisper, "is the key to saving both our species, or destroying them." Before John could respond, a blinding light illuminated the crash site. The whine of engines filled the air as a dropship descended from the night sky, kicking up dust and debris. "Run!" John shouted, grabbing Zara's hand and pulling her towards the rover. They sprinted across the uneven ground, hearts pounding as the sound of booted feet and shouted orders echoed behind them. They had just reached the rover when a voice rang out, amplified and commanding. "This is Captain Reyes of the LV-426 Security Force. Stand down and surrender the alien immediately." John's mind raced. There was no way they could outrun a dropship in the rover. He looked at Zara, saw the fear and determination in her eyes, and made a decision. "Do you trust me?" he asked. Zara nodded without hesitation. "Then hold on tight," John said, gunning the engine. But instead of fleeing, he aimed the rover directly at the dropship. "Williams, have you lost your mind?" Reyes' voice boomed. "Stand down now." John ignored him, pushing the rover to its limits. At the last possible second, he wrenched the wheel to the side, sending them into a skid. The rover tipped precariously, then rolled, tumbling down a steep embankment that had been hidden in the darkness. The world spun around them as the rover rolled again and again. John held onto Zara tightly, using his body to shield her as best he could. With a final bone-jarring impact, they came to rest at the bottom of a deep ravine. For a moment, all was silent save for the ringing in John's ears. Then, gradually, he became aware of a soft blue glow emanating from beside him. He turned his head, wincing at the movement, to see Zara holding the cylindrical device. It hummed with power, projecting a shimmering force field around the battered rover. "Are you all right?" Zara asked, her voice filled with concern. John did a quick self-assessment. Everything hurt, but nothing seemed broken. "I'll live," he groaned. "You?" "Your reckless maneuver was surprisingly effective," Zara replied, a hint of admiration in her tone. "The force field absorbed most of the impact, but we can't stay here long. The field's energy signature will be easy to track." As if on cue, the sound of the dropship's engines grew louder overhead. Searchlights swept the ravine, probing the darkness for any sign of them. "What now?" John asked, forcing himself into a sitting position. Zara's eyes gleamed with an otherworldly light. "Now," she said, "we go where they can't follow." She manipulated the controls on the device, and the humming intensified. The force field expanded, enveloping them in a cocoon of pulsing energy. John felt a strange sensation, as if every atom in his body was vibrating. "Hold on," Zara warned. "This might feel unusual." The world around them seemed to blur and stretch. John's stomach lurched as reality itself appeared to fold in on itself. There was a moment of utter disorientation, and then they were somewhere else entirely. Gone was the rocky ravine of LV-426. Instead, they found themselves in a vast cavern, illuminated by bioluminescent fungi that clung to the walls. Strange, otherworldly rock formations surrounded them, defying the laws of physics as John understood them. "Where are we?" he asked, his voice filled with awe and confusion. Zara deactivated the force field, a look of wonder on her face. "If I'm not mistaken," she said, "we're in the legendary starlit caverns of Axiom Prime, a place thought to be nothing more than a myth." "I don't understand," John said, climbing out of the battered rover on shaky legs. "How did we get here? What even is here?" "The device," Zara explained, holding up the cylinder, "is a prototype quantum tunneling drive. It allows for instantaneous travel between 2 points in space-time. But it's unpredictable, drawing on naturally occurring wormholes in the fabric of reality. I had no idea it would bring us here." John's scientific mind reeled at the implications. That's impossible. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical." Zara smiled enigmatically. "There's much about the universe your people have yet to discover, John, but that's why I'm here. Why the Calaxian Empire sent me." She took a deep breath, her expression growing serious. "The truth is, humanity is in grave danger. There are forces at work in the galaxy that would see your species enslaved or eradicated before you can reach your full potential. My mission was to make contact, to prepare your leaders for what's coming." "What's coming?" John asked, a chill running down his spine. "War," Zara said simply. "On a scale your people can scarcely imagine. The Calaxian Empire has long stood as a bulwark against the expansionist Zetreki dominion. But our numbers are dwindling, our resources stretched thin. We need allies. And humanity, with its boundless potential and indomitable spirit, could tip the balance. John's mind raced with the implications. But why all the secrecy? Why not just approach our governments openly? Zara's expression darkened. Because the Zetreki have agents everywhere. If they learned of our plans to ally with humanity, they would strike immediately, before your people could prepare. That's why the quantum tunneling drive is so important. With this technology, we could evacuate entire populations in moments, strike at the enemy from impossible angles. It could be the key to victory. A distant rumbling interrupted their conversation. The cavern shook, dust and small rocks raining down from above. "What was that?" John asked, looking around warily. Zara's eyes widened in alarm. The transition must have destabilized the cavern's structural integrity. "We need to move now." As if to emphasize her point, a massive stalactite crashed to the ground mere feet from where they stood. John grabbed what supplies he could from the rover, while Zara clutched the quantum tunneling drive protectively. "This way," she shouted over the growing cacophony of falling rocks, pointing towards a narrow passage that seemed to lead deeper into the cavern system. They ran, ducking and weaving to avoid the falling debris. The bioluminescent fungi pulsed with agitated light, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. As they delved deeper into the caverns, the air grew thick with an odd, sweet-smelling mist. "Don't breathe too deeply," Zara warned. "The atmosphere here might have trace elements toxic to your physiology." John nodded, trying to take shallow breaths as they pressed on. The passage twisted and turned, opening into chambers filled with impossible geological formations and strange alien flora. Under different circumstances, the scientist in him would have been ecstatic at the opportunity to study such wonders. But right now, survival was their only priority. As they rounded another bend, John skidded to a halt, throwing out an arm to stop Zara. Before them, spanning a seemingly bottomless chasm, was a bridge unlike anything he had ever seen. It appeared to be made of pure energy, shimmering and translucent, with no visible means of support. "The Bridge of Whispers," Zara breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "I never thought I'd see it with my own eyes." "Is it safe?" John asked skeptically, eyeing the insubstantial-looking structure. Zara hesitated. "Legend says it will bear the weight of those pure of heart and intention. Those found wanting, well, it's a long way down." Another tremor shook the cavern, more violent than before. Chunks of rock crashed down behind them, blocking their way back. "Doesn't look like we have much choice," John said grimly. Hand in hand, human and alien stepped onto the Bridge of Whispers. The energy field hummed beneath their feet, solid yet not, a paradox made manifest. With each step, John felt as if the bridge was probing his very soul, judging his worthiness. Suddenly, a piercing shriek filled the air. John turned to see a creature emerging from the mist behind them, a nightmarish amalgamation of insect and reptile, with far too many eyes and wickedly curved claws. "Void spawn," Zara cried out in alarm. "Run." They sprinted across the bridge, the unearthly howls of the void spawn echoing off the cavern walls. John's heart pounded in his chest, every instinct screaming at him that this ethereal bridge couldn't possibly support them. Just as they neared the other side, John felt the energy beneath his feet flicker. He stumbled, nearly falling into the abyss, but Zara's grip on his hand tightened. With a burst of strength, she pulled him to safety, and they collapsed onto solid ground just as the bridge winked out of existence. The void spawn's shrieks of frustration faded into the distance as John and Zara caught their breath. They had escaped immediate danger, but they were now trapped in an alien world, hunted by forces beyond their understanding, with the fate of two species hanging in the balance. As John looked at Zara, he saw his own mix of fear, determination, and wonder reflected in her crystalline eyes. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, human and alien, united in a quest that would reshape the very fabric of the galaxy. Echoes of ancient power. The air shimmered with an otherworldly energy as John and Zara caught their breath on the far side of the now-vanished Bridge of Whispers. The crystalline walls of the cavern pulsed with an eerie, bioluminescent glow, casting dancing shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. That was too close, John panted, his heart still racing from their narrow escape. He turned to Zara, concern etching his features. "Are you all right?" The Calaxian ambassador nodded, her color-shifting hair rippling with hues of deep purple, a sign of intense concentration, John had learned. "I'm unharmed," she replied, her melodic voice tinged with worry. "But we've strayed far from any charted territory. The starlit caverns are a labyrinth of myth and danger. We must proceed with utmost caution." As if to emphasize her point, a distant roar echoed through the twisting passages, sending shivers down John's spine. Whatever nightmarish creature had made that sound, he had no desire to encounter it. "So, what's our next move?" he asked, forcing his voice to remain steady. "I don't suppose that fancy quantum drive of yours can zap us back to LV 426. Zara shook her head, examining the cylindrical device with a frown. "The transition here has drained its power reserves. It will need time to recharge, drawing energy from the ambient quantum fluctuations. And even then, I'm not certain I can control our destination with any precision." John sighed, running a hand through his sweat-dampened hair. Wonderful. Stranded in an alien death maze with no way home. Just another day at the office, right? Despite the direness of their situation, Zara's lips quirked in a small smile. "Your species' ability to find humor in the face of adversity is remarkable, John. It's one of the qualities that makes humanity so intriguing to us." Before John could respond, a flicker of movement caught his eye. He squinted into the shadows, his hand instinctively reaching for the plasma cutter at his belt. "Did you see that?" Zara tensed, her crystalline eyes scanning the cavern. "Yes. We're not alone here." As if summoned by their words, a figure emerged from the darkness. John's breath caught in his throat as he took in the impossible sight before him. The being was vaguely humanoid, but its body seemed to be composed of pure energy, shifting and swirling with patterns of light that hurt his eyes to look at directly. "Greetings, wayward travelers," the being spoke, its voice resonating not through the air, but directly in their minds. "I am Zixlith, keeper of the Axiom Archives. It has been eons since organic life forms have walked these halls." John and Zara exchanged a bewildered glance. This was so far beyond anything either of them had expected to encounter. "Great Keeper," Zara said, bowing her head respectfully, "we apologize for our intrusion. We seek only safe passage back to our own realm." The energy being regarded them silently for a long moment, its non-existent eyes somehow managing to convey a sense of deep scrutiny. "Your arrival here is no accident," Zixlith finally responded. "The quantum currents have brought you to this nexus of realities for a purpose. The fate of your species, of all species, hangs in the balance." John stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overriding his fear. "What do you mean? What is this place, really?" "The starlit caverns are more than mere tunnels through rock," Zixlith explained, its form rippling with patterns of light that seemed to convey concepts beyond words. "They are a repository of knowledge and power gathered from across the multitude of universes. Here, at the heart of the Axiom Archives, lies the key to defeating the greatest threat your reality has ever faced." Zara gasped, her eyes widening in realization. "The Zetreki Dominion. You know of them?" "We have observed their rise across countless realities," the Keeper confirmed. "In most, they succeed in their quest for total domination, snuffing out the spark of free will wherever they encounter it. But in a few, a precious few, they are stopped, and the linchpin in those realities is always the same: an alliance between humanity and the Calaxian Empire." John's mind reeled at the implications. So, our meeting wasn't just chance. We're part of some cosmic plan to save the universe. Destiny is a fluid thing, Zexlith replied cryptically, but the potential within you both is undeniable. Together, you represent a fusion of strengths that could turn the tide of the coming war. However, to unlock that potential, you must first pass the trials of Axiom. Trials? John asked warily. What kind of trials? The energy being's form pulsed with what might have been amusement, tests of body, mind, and spirit, challenges that will push you to your very limits and beyond. Only by overcoming them can you hope to claim the power hidden within these caverns, power that could mean the difference between victory and annihilation. Zora stepped forward, her posture resolute. We accept your challenge, Great Keeper. We have no choice. The fate of our peoples depends on it. John nodded in agreement, though his stomach churned with a mixture of excitement and terror. What she said. Let's do this. Very well, Zexlith intoned. The first trial awaits. May your bond be strong enough to weather what lies ahead. With a blinding flash of light, the energy being vanished, leaving John and Zara alone once more. But the cavern around them had changed, reshaping itself into a vast arena of crystalline platforms suspended over a bottomless void. I guess there's no turning back now, John said, trying to keep the tremor from his voice. Zara reached out, taking his hand in hers. The touch of her cool, alien skin sent a jolt of electricity through him. Whatever we face, she said softly, we face it together. As they stepped onto the first platform, ancient mechanisms whirred to life. The trial had begun. The next hours were a blur of harrowing challenges and mind-bending puzzles. John and Zara leaped from platform to platform, dodging energy beams and solving complex mathematical equations etched into the crystal surfaces. They faced holographic projections of their deepest fears, forcing them to confront the shadows within their own psyches. Throughout it all, they worked in perfect synchronization, their strengths complementing each other in ways neither could have anticipated. Where John's human ingenuity found novel solutions, Zara's Calaxian intuition guided them true. When one faltered, the other was there to offer support and encouragement. As they completed each stage of the trial, the cavern pulsed with approval, and they felt a growing power building within them. It was as if the very essence of the Axiom archives was seeping into their beings, unlocking hidden potentials and forging a connection between them that transcended mere physical attraction. Finally, exhausted but exhilarated, they reached the heart of the arena. A shimmering portal of pure energy stood before them, its surface rippling with images of distant stars and unknown worlds. This is it, Zara breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. The gateway to the power we seek. John squeezed her hand, a gesture that had become as natural as breathing over the course of their ordeal. Together, he asked. Zara nodded, a smile playing at her lips. Always. As one, they stepped through the portal. The universe seemed to fold in on itself, reality twisting and reshaping around them. When the disorientation passed, they found themselves in a vast chamber unlike anything they had encountered before. The walls were lined with swirling vortexes of energy, each one a window into a different reality. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, upon which rested a pulsing orb of light. The Nexus Core, Zara whispered in awe. The source of the Axiom Archive's power. With this, we cooled. Her words were cut off by a bone-chilling screech. From the shadows emerged a nightmare-made flesh, the void spawn that had pursued them across the Bridge of Whispers. But it had changed, grown grotesquely large and powerful, feeding off the ambient energy of the chamber. How did it follow us here? John shouted, backing away from the monstrous creature. It matters not, Zara replied, her voice filled with determination. We've come too far to fail now. As the void spawn lunged towards them, John and Zara moved in perfect unison. Drawing upon the power they had absorbed during the trials, they launched a counterattack. John's hands crackled with energy as he fired bolt after bolt of pure quantum force at the beast. Zara's form blurred with impossible speed, striking at the creature's weak points with precision. The battle raged across the chamber, reality itself warping and twisting around them as they fought. The void spawn was incredibly strong, but it was no match for the combined might of human and Calaxian working in harmony. With a final, desperate lunge, John and Zara struck together, channeling their power into a single devastating blow. The void spawn let out an unearthly wail as it disintegrated, its essence scattered across 1,000 realities. Panting heavily, the unlikely pair turned to face the pedestal. The Nexus core pulsed invitingly, its power calling to them. "Are you ready?" John asked, his voice filled with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. Zara nodded, her crystalline eyes shimmering with emotion. "With you by my side, I'm ready for anything." As their hands closed around the Nexus core, a surge of indescribable power flooded through them. In that moment, they saw everything, every possible future, every branching path of destiny. They saw the coming war with its Jetbraki dominion, the trials and tribulations that lay ahead. But they also saw hope, a future where humanity and the Calaxian Empire stood together, ushering in a new age of peace and discovery for the galaxy. When the vision faded, John and Zara found themselves back on LV-426, standing amidst the wreckage of her ship. But they were changed, transformed by their experience in the Axiom archives. The power of the Nexus core thrummed within them, a constant reminder of the destiny they now shared. As the sun rose over the alien horizon, John turned to Zara, a newfound determination in his eyes. "So," he said with a grin, "ready to save the universe?" Zara's laughter rang out across the barren landscape, a sound of pure joy and possibility. "Lead the way, my human hero," she replied, taking his hand once more. "Our greatest adventure is just beginning." Together, they set off towards the research base, prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fate of two species, of the entire galaxy, rested in their hands. But with the power of the Axiom archives and the strength of their bond, John and Zara knew that anything was possible. The universe would never be the same again. Quantum convergence. The twin suns of LV-426 crested the horizon, bathing the alien landscape in a surreal amber glow. John and Zara stood atop a rocky outcropping, surveying the sprawling research base below. The power of the Nexus core thrummed within them, an ever-present reminder of their newfound destiny. "It's strange," John mused, his eyes distant. "Just days ago, my biggest concern was collecting geological samples. Now we're about to change the course of galactic history." Zara placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch sending a spark of energy between them. "The weight of responsibility is heavy, but we bear it together." As they prepared to make their approach, a distant rumble caught their attention. The ground beneath their feet began to tremble, and the sky darkened ominously. "That's no natural phenomenon," Zara said, her crystalline eyes widening in alarm. A massive shape burst through the clouds, a Jetbraki warship, its hull bristling with weapons beyond human comprehension. Smaller craft poured from its hangars, descending upon the unsuspecting research base. "They're here," John breathed, his heart racing. "But how? We haven't even begun to prepare Earth's defenses." Zara's expression hardened. "The quantum fluctuations from our journey must have alerted them. We've inadvertently accelerated their timetable." As chaos erupted below, with panicked researchers fleeing and security forces mounting a futile defense, John and Zara exchanged a determined look. There was no time for subtlety or careful planning. The future of both their species hung in the balance. "Ready to make an entrance?" John asked, a reckless grin spreading across his face. Zara matched his expression, her hair shimmering with hues of fierce determination. "Let's show them what a human Calaxian alliance can really do." Drawing upon the power of the Nexus core, they launched themselves from the cliff. Energy crackled around them as they plummeted towards the ground, their descent slowing at the last moment to land in the center of the base with earth-shattering impact. Researchers and security personnel alike stared in awe at the sight before them, a human and an alien standing back to back, surrounded by a pulsing aura of power. "This is not a drill," John shouted, his voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "We are under attack by a hostile alien force, but we are not alone in this fight." As if to punctuate his words, a Jetbreki dropship screamed overhead, disgorging a squad of nightmarish soldiers. They were hulking, insectoid creatures with multiple limbs and weaponry fused directly into their carapaces. "Stay behind us," Zara commanded, her hands already glowing with gathered energy. The Zetreki opened fire, their weapons spewing streams of corrosive plasma. But John and Zara were ready. With a synchronized gesture, they erected a shimmering force field that absorbed the barrage. Then, moving in perfect harmony, they launched their counterattack. John's fists crackled with quantum energy as he engaged the Zetreki in close combat. Each punch warped the fabric of space-time, sending enemies flying or imploding in on themselves. Zara, meanwhile, danced through the battlefield with impossible grace, her mastery of Calaxian martial arts enhanced by the power of the Nexus core. As they fought, the assembled humans watched in stunned silence. This was beyond anything they had ever witnessed, proof positive that they were not alone in the universe, and that humanity's potential was far greater than they had ever imagined. Captain Reyes, the security chief who had pursued them earlier, approached cautiously. "Williams," he called out, his voice a mixture of confusion and awe. "What in God's name is going on here?" John paused, dispatching a final Zetreki soldier with a reality-warping uppercut. "It's a long story, Captain," he replied with a wry smile. "But the short version is, Earth is in danger, and we need to prepare for war." As if on cue, the Zetreki warship above unleashed a devastating energy beam, carving a smoldering trench across the landscape. The attack missed the base itself, but the message was clear. This was only the beginning. "We need to evacuate," Zara said urgently. "This base is too exposed. Is there a more defensible location nearby?" Reyes nodded, snapping out of his daze and into military mode. "There's a network of caverns about 10 clicks north. We've been using them for deep storage and backup power systems." "Perfect," John replied. "Get everyone moving. We'll cover your retreat." As the base personnel scrambled to gather essential equipment and evacuate, John and Zara turned their attention to the looming threat above. The Zetreki warship was positioning itself for another attack run. "Think we can take that thing down?" John asked, eyeing the massive vessel skeptically. Zara's lips quirked in a confident smirk. "With our combined power, absolutely." They joined hands, channeling the energy of the Nexus core between them. The air crackled with potential as they focused their will, reaching out with their newfound abilities to touch the very fabric of reality. With a thunderous boom, a rift opened in the sky directly above the Zetreki warship. The huge vessel was caught in the gravitational pull of a microsingularity, its hull buckling and twisting as it was drawn inexorably upward. The Zetreki tried to flee, pouring out of the doomed ship in a swarm of smaller craft. But John and Zara were relentless, using their control over quantum forces to pluck the enemy vessels from the sky one by one. As the last of the Zetreki ships disappeared into the swerving vortex, John and Zara released their hold on the rift. It snatched shut with a final, resounding crack, leaving nothing but empty sky and stunned silence in its wake. That was impossible," Reyes stammered, staring at the spot where a warship capable of destroying entire planets had vanished moments before. "Not impossible," Zara corrected gently. "Simply beyond your current understanding of physics. But that will change, and soon. It must, if humanity is to survive what's coming." John nodded grimly. This was just the advanced scout. The full might of the Zetreki Dominion won't be far behind. We need to prepare Earth's defenses, and we need to do it fast. As the last of the personnel transports disappeared into the distance, John and Zara stood alone amidst the wreckage of the research base. The twin suns of LV-426 were setting now, casting long shadows across the alien landscape. So, John said, turning to his alien companion with a mix of excitement and trepidation in his eyes, what's our next move? Zora's gaze was distant, her mind clearly racing with possibilities. We need to contact my people, she said finally. The Calaxian Empire has technology and resources that will be crucial in the coming conflict. But more than that, we need to forge a true alliance between our species. John nodded, understanding the monumental task that lay before them. It won't be easy, he mused. Humanity can barely get along with itself, let alone an alien civilization. That's where we come in, Zara replied, her tone resolute. We've seen what's possible when human and Calaxian work together. We'll be the bridge between our peoples, the living proof that cooperation is not only possible but essential for survival. As they spoke, the quantum tunneling drive that had brought them to the Axiom archives began to pulse with renewed energy. Zara examined it closely, her eyes widening in surprise. It's fully recharged, she exclaimed. And more than that, it seems our connection to the Nexus core has enhanced its capabilities. We could potentially reach any point in space-time. A slow grin spread across John's face as the implications sank in. So, we could go anywhere. Visit the Calaxian homeworld, rally the leaders of Earth, maybe even peek into the future to see what strategies work best against the Sitreki. Zara matched his enthusiasm, her color-shifting hair rippling with excitement. The possibilities are endless, but we must be cautious. With great power comes great responsibility, as your people say. John chuckled, shaking his head in amazement. You know, when I signed up for this survey mission, I never imagined I'd end up quoting Spider-Man to an alien while planning to save the galaxy. Zara tilted her head in confusion. Spider-Man, is that one of Earth's great philosophers? Something like that, John replied with a wink. I'll explain later. For now, let's focus on our next destination. Where to first, Ambassador? Zara considered for a moment, then nodded decisively. We start with Earth. Your leaders need to understand the full scope of the threat they face. And, she paused, a hint of vulnerability creeping into her voice. I admit I'm curious to see your homeworld with my own eyes. John's expression softened, and he reached out to take her hand. The touch sent a surge of energy between them, a reminder of the incredible bond they now shared. Earth it is, he said softly. Fair warning, it's a bit of a mess. But it's home, and it's worth fighting for. Zara squeezed his hand, her crystalline eyes shimmering with emotion. Any world that could produce someone like you, John Williams, is a world worth saving. With a shared nod of determination, they activated the quantum tunneling drive. Reality walked around them, the barren landscape of LV-426 fading away to be replaced by the swirling vortex of space-time. As they hurtled towards Earth and the next phase of their grand adventure, John and Zara knew that the challenges ahead would be immense. But with the power of the Nexus core flowing through them and the strength of their newfound bond, they were ready to face whatever the universe might throw their way. The fate of two species, of countless worlds across the galaxy, rested in their hands, and they would not fail. Echoes of tomorrow. The quantum tunnel collapsed around John and Zara, reality snapping back into focus with a dizzying rush. They found themselves standing atop a skyscraper in the heart of New York City, the sprawling metropolis stretching out before them in all directions. The sun was just beginning to set, painting the sky in a breathtaking array of oranges and purples. Welcome to Earth, John said, his voice filled with a mixture of pride and trepidation. It's not the Calaxian crystal spires, but it's home. Zora's eyes were wide with wonder as she took in the sight. It's chaotic, she breathed. Vibrant. Alive in a way I've never seen before. Their moment of quiet awe was shattered by the sudden wail of sirens. Looking down, they saw a fleet of police vehicles converging on their location, no doubt alerted by whatever energy signature their arrival had produced. So much for a subtle entrance, John muttered. Any ideas on how to approach this without causing a panic? Before Zara could respond, A new sound filled the air, the distinctive whomp-whomp-whomp of helicopter rotors. A sleek black chopper rose into view, hovering just off the edge of the building. Its side door slid open to reveal a stern-faced woman in a crisp suit, her hair pulled back in a tight bun. "John Williams?" the woman called out, her voice barely audible over the roar of the engines. "I'm Agent Chen, Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division. We've been expecting you." John and Zara exchanged a surprised glance. "You have," John shouted back. Agent Chen's expression remained impassive. "Let's just say we've been monitoring some unusual quantum fluctuations. Now, if you and your companion would kindly step aboard, we have a lot to discuss." Seeing little alternative, John and Zara carefully made their way to the helicopter. As they settled into their seats, John couldn't help but feel a twinge of unease. How much did this agency know? And could they be trusted with the fate of the galaxy? The chopper banked sharply, heading towards an unknown destination. Agent Chen studied them intently, her gaze lingering on Zara's alien features. "I assume this isn't a social call," Chen said, her tongue dry. "Care to explain why an off-world human and an unknown extraterrestrial species just popped into existence above Manhattan?" John took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "Earth is in danger. A hostile alien force known as the Zetraki Dominion is preparing for a full-scale invasion. We're here to help prepare your defenses and forge an alliance that could save not just humanity, but countless species across the galaxy." Chen's eyebrow arched skeptically. "That's quite a claim, Mr. Williams. I hope you have evidence to back it up." Zara leaned forward, her crystalline eyes intense. "We have more than evidence, Agent Chen. We have the power to reshape reality itself." To demonstrate, Zara held out her hand, palm up. A miniature galaxy swirled into existence above it, stars and planets spinning in an intricate dance. Chen's eyes widened, her composure cracking for the first time. "What you're seeing is but a fraction of what the Nexus Core allows us to do," Zara continued. "With it, we can give humanity the tools it needs to stand against the shipwrecky threat." The rest of the flight passed in tense silence as Chen digested this information. Finally, the helicopter began to descend, landing on a hidden platform that opened up from what appeared to be an ordinary office building. "Your reign of terror ends here," Zara declared, her voice resonating with the power of the Nexus Core. "You cannot stop the inevitable," the Hive Queen's voice boomed in their minds. "We are endless. We are eternal. We are." Her words were cut short as John and Zara unleashed the full might of their combined power. Reality itself seemed to buckle and warp around them as they poured every ounce of energy they possessed into a single reality-shattering attack. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, the universe held its breath. Then, with a soundless explosion that rippled across the fabric of space-time, the Zetraki command ship, and the Hive Queen with it, simply ceased to exist. Without their leader, the remaining Zetraki forces fell into disarray. The combined might of Earth's hastily assembled defenses and the Calaxian fleet made short work of them. As the last of the enemy ships were destroyed or forced into retreat, John and Zara found themselves floating in the silence of space, surrounded by the aftermath of the greatest battle in Earth's history. "We did it," John breathed, his voice filled with exhaustion and disbelief. "We actually did it." Zara's crystalline eyes shimmered with emotion as she gazed at the planet below. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "The real work starts now." As they descended back to Earth, ready to face the monumental task of rebuilding and preparing for the future, John and Zara knew that their journey was far from over. But whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, human and Calaxian, bound by a love that transcended the stars themselves. The universe would never be the same again, and neither would they.